And we got into this debate about what was Europe going to look like. And it was clear to me, if you read his speech, go back and get the speech he made early on. He talks about Kyiv as the birthplace of Mother Russia. That is, all he wants to do is reestablish the old Warsaw Pact. He wants to establish that control over. Can't let that happen. This guy is not a good guy. He has, anyway.
This is my video update on this Friday afternoon, January the 17th, coming to you from Nicosia, Cyprus. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with the Biden administration's exit interviews. Bidenopolis' exit interview with MSNBC. Antony Blinken's exit press conference. The Biden White House in 2 to 3 days will finally be gone. Thank God. Thank God. But Biden, until then, Biden is giving his final interview to MSNBC. I believe this is his final interview to MSNBC. Does anyone watch MSNBC anymore? Does anyone care what Bidenopolis says anymore? I don't think anyone cares what Bidenopolis says. But I'll report a bit of what he talked about during this MSNBC interview. Actually, let me say this about Biden's interview with MSNBC. Whatever parts I listened to in this interview with Lawrence O'Donnell, I'm telling you, man, I'm convinced that Biden has been given a story, probably from Dr. Jill, probably Hunter, Sullivan, Blinken. He's been given a story as to the type of president he was, his accomplishments, how his 4 years in office went. And he's been given this story, this alternate narrative that he did awesome, that he was a great freaking president. I really believe that Dr. Jill has told Biden all of these things, and that Blinken and Sullivan have told him about all of the great policies that he put out there, all of the successful summits that he took part in, the way he engaged with world leaders, how loved he is around the world as the U.S. president, how loved and admired and respected he is in the United States. I think they've told him all of this. and I honestly believe that Biden believes this. Biden is thinking that he did great, man. He did freaking great. He was the best president the U.S. has ever had. The worst president that the U.S. has ever had, but he's been fed a narrative that he was awesome. He was awesome. In this interview with MSNBC, there was one part of the interview where he talked about meeting with Putin and how he really stuck it to Putin. He really stuck it to Putin. Putin was worried about tactical nukes in Ukraine, and Biden told Putin, look, man, you don't have to worry about tactical nukes in Ukraine because we're not putting tactical nukes in Ukraine. That's what I told him. And then he was concerned about NATO. And I told him, look, man, you don't have to worry about Ukraine entering NATO because Ukraine's not going to enter NATO until it fulfills certain requirements, certain criteria, which is going to take some time. So I told Putin, look, man, you don't have to worry about these things. Don't worry about them, bro. And then he told Lawrence O'Donnell, but Putin still invaded Ukraine. And I knew he was going to invade Ukraine, Biden said. But of course, Biden rallied the world and defeated Russia and the Putin. This is the stuff that Biden was saying. I'm not joking, man. I'm not joking. I think he believes all this stuff. I really think he believes all of this stuff because I think these are the stories that Sullivan and Blinken and Dr. Jill fed him. That's right, Joe. When you had a meeting with Putin, this is what you told him. Did I really tell him that? Yes, Joe, that's what you told him. Really? I said that to Vladimir Putin? Yeah, Joe. You really stuck it to him. I really did. Wow. Oh boy, goodbye, Bidenopolis. In a couple of days, you are Bidenopolis no more. You're no longer Greece's favorite son. You're just Joe Biden. A failure of an American president, an awful, an absolutely awful president of the United States. Blinken gave his end of the year, well, his end of the term, not end of the year, his end of the term press conference. Blinken will no longer be Secretary of State in a couple of days. I'm certain that he will get a nice job at some sort of think tank or NGO. He will be rewarded for the chaos and the destruction and the suffering that he caused. No doubt about that. But he had a press conference. The media, of course, was in attendance, and Blinken was talking about all the great work that he has done, that he accomplished as Secretary of State. And there were journalists, for example, Max Blumenthal, who were at the event, and they had some difficult questions for Blinken to answer. The job of a journalist, right, is to give difficult questions to those in power. Blinken's job as a civil servant, as a public servant to the people of the United States, is to answer those questions, no matter how difficult those questions may be. But Blinken and the Biden White House, they've never been too hot on answering difficult questions. They're not competent enough to answer difficult questions. So what did Blinken do yesterday? He just had the journalists thrown out. That's what he did. He just threw them out. He got some difficult questions from Blumenthal and another journalist. And Blinken's answer to them was to just get out. Actually, Count Chocula, Matthew Miller, the State Department spokesperson, he got the police, the DC police, the security to throw them out. Why answer their questions when you can just throw them out of the event? There's an article here from CNN covering for Blinken. Of course, CNN is covering for Blinken. The title of their article says, Blinken's final press conference interrupted by protesters. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken's final press conference at the State Department was interrupted by two protesters who were escorted out of the briefing room after protesting against the U.S. sending weapons to Israel. There were protesters, not journalists, according to CNN, right? Protesters. The terrible part about everything that happened during Blinken's press conference was that as the journalists were thrown out, the other journalists at the event did nothing. They just watched them get thrown out by the police. No one stood up and said, hey, this is wrong. No one stood up and said, come on, Blinkety Blinken, Count Chocula, Matthew Miller. They're asking legitimate questions. A journalist could have stood up and said, I don't agree with Max Blumenthal's position or his politics, but he has a right to ask this question, and you should answer this question, Secretary of State. No one did that. No one said that. They just stood there and watched. They stood there and watched as journalists were thrown out of this press conference. Putin would have answered the questions. Putin always takes difficult questions and he answers them, and everything's very calm. Right? No one's thrown out. The journalists actually are very aggressive towards Putin. They ask some very, very difficult questions. Lavrov the same. They're very aggressive to Lavrov or to Putin when they ask questions. The journalists from NBC or from BBC, that guy from BBC, my God. Yeah, they insult the Russian leadership. They insult Russia when they ask their questions. But Putin sits there, he listens, he answers it calmly, he shuts them down in a polite way, in a factual way, in a diplomatic way, and then they move on to the next question. Not the Biden White House. They just prefer to throw people out. that's what they prefer. Just get rid of them, man. Freedom of speech, right? Right. So TikTok is not going to be banned. The Biden White House, the courts, they were going to ban TikTok. Actually, it was more. The decision was more that TikTok needed to be sold to an American company or it would be banned. I think that was what was really going on. But that was supposed to take place by January 19th or January 20th. And the Biden White House, the courts, they just decided to leave it to Trump. So TikTok is still up and running, and the Trump White House will decide TikTok's fate. But from what messaging we have received from Trump himself, he is not going to enforce any type of ban on TikTok. So it looks like TikTok is safe for now. TikTok is safe. The big news of the day, I think this is the big news of the day, is the Iranian president, Pezeshkian, is in Moscow. He arrived in Moscow, a big trip by the Iranian president to meet with Putin. And they are going to sign a comprehensive strategic partnership agreement. That is what they are going to sign, a comprehensive strategic partnership agreement. I'm having difficulty saying that. The Kremlin described this agreement as a framework for the long-term development of bilateral relations between Russia and Iran. So they're going to talk about a lot of topics. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff that the Iranian leadership and the Russian leadership have to talk about and have to discuss, but they are going to sign this partnership agreement. It is a game-changing partnership agreement between Russia and Iran. Russia and Iran have never they've never been allies. I think there is a misconception at times from the collectivist media that Russia and Iran have always been best of friends. That's not true. That is not true. Actually, everything that has happened in the past 3-4 years under Biden has pushed Iran and Russia closer together in much the same way that they pushed China and Russia closer together. Good job, Joe Biden. But yeah, they're now in an agreement. They are in an agreement, and this is going to make it very difficult for Trump to apply his maximum pressure strategy, which is basically the Trump administration coming into office and trying to get regime change in Iran by trying to place crippling sanctions on the Iranian government and the Iranian people. And then, of course, you're going to have the media and the NGOs, and they're going to do their thing. But we're not talking about war. Hopefully, we're not talking about conflict with Iran. We're talking about a maximum pressure strategy, which it looks like is going to be about trying to break the Iranian leadership through economic sanctions and stuff like that. Economic sanctions, NGOs, InfoWars, things like that. But yeah, it's time for the cats to be fed. All right, let me move so that the cats can get their lunch or their dinner in peace, so that they can eat in peace. Because if I sit here and record a video, they're not going to be comfortable. Where can we sit down? About over there. So that's the big news from Moscow today. And I think we should talk a little bit more about Keir Starmer's trip to Kiev. Let's talk a little bit more about Sir Keir Starmer visiting the Green Goblin, getting a nice hefty dose of Zelensky number 5 and the Zelensky curse, and signing that 100-year bilateral treaty. The Kremlin has responded to this, by the way, and Peskov said, look, the UK entering a 100-year treaty with Ukraine does not necessarily mean that Ukraine is entering NATO, but he said that Russia is absolutely concerned. They are concerned about this agreement because it is the UK's way of trying to get Ukraine into NATO via these bilateral agreements, via the back door, through the back door, trying to get Ukraine into NATO. But Peskov said that he is very concerned, that Russia is very concerned about one of the parts of the agreement, which talks about the UK securing the Black Sea. Now, the agreement does mention something like that. Let me read you what's going on here. This is from the document. It's a 15-page document that was signed between the UK and Ukraine, where they're talking about setting up military bases and the UK Navy having a presence in the Black Sea, which does concern Russia. The participants will explore options for deploying and maintaining defense infrastructure in Ukraine, including military bases, logistics depots, reserve military equipment storage facilities, and war reserve stockpiles, the document states. The agreement also emphasizes maritime cooperation, particularly in the Black Sea region. The UK has pledged to enhance Ukraine's interoperability with NATO in the maritime sphere through joint naval operations, port visits, and the development of Ukrainian naval bases. Yeah, the UK is looking to set up shop in the Black Sea, and Russia is not going to allow this. I don't even know if the UK is capable of doing this. I don't even know if they can do such a thing. But Peskov pretty much ruled this out in the Kremlin's statement. By the way, Starmer, the reports are from Politico that when he was in Kiev, the Russian military launched a drone strike into Kiev in order to, perhaps in order to intimidate Starmer as he was visiting the Green Goblin. Russia strikes Kiev as UK's Starmer arrives to sign 100-year treaty with Zelensky. For me, that drone attack is just really a reminder of what Ukraine is facing every day, and a reminder that this war is brought about by Russian aggression, Starmer told reporters at a press conference in the palace. There were no reported casualties. Starmer was asked if he thought the Russians had targeted Kiev to make a point of saying hello to him during his visit. Zelensky responded that Ukraine would say hello back. Ukraine say hello back. Yeah, Starmer. In Kiev, talking about a drone strike by Russia to intimidate him, possibly to intimidate him. Keir Starmer in Kiev. So that's just an update on that. What else? Scholz. This is an interesting story. The pirate Scholz. He's in a bit of a fight with Annalena 360. Annalena 360 in a fight with the pirate. Yeah, because of $3 billion to Ukraine. That's what they're fighting about. $3 billion to Ukraine, which would be a huge one-off payment to the Zelensky regime. And here's some of the backstory. Pirate Scholz, they're not against giving the $3 billion to Ukraine. No one in current Scholz government, the Greens, the SPD, even the CDU, the opposition, the main opposition party, the CDU, They're not against getting $3 billion to Zelensky. The problem is that Scholz refuses to green light this $3 billion from existing budgets from the existing budget. Scholz is saying, look, we'll give $3 billion to Zelensky, but we have to take out a loan. We have to raise the money. I'm not going to take this out of the pensions or out of infrastructure or anything like that from German citizens. And Annalena is furious about this. She is furious. She wants the money taken out of pensions, out of German citizens' pensions, and given to Zelensky. That's the reason that they are arguing. Germany's Scholz ignites fierce debate by making Ukraine aid contingent on borrowing. Right-leaning parties like the Christian Democratic Union and the fiscally conservative Free Democratic Party favor aid for Ukraine, but are broadly against loosening Germany's constitutional debt brake, which limits the structural budget deficit to 0.35% of gross domestic product, except in times of emergency, setting up a conflict over how to finance the assistance. Scholz now wants Parliament to declare an emergency so that Ukraine aid can be financed with additional borrowing. Out on the campaign trail, the Chancellor has repeatedly argued that using normal budgetary spending would mean helping Ukraine at the expense of Germany's social welfare system and pensions. I would still be in favor if everyone agreed to a resolution to finance this through loans, Scholz said on German television late Wednesday. And Annalena Baerbock is saying, take it out of the German citizens' welfare system, take it out of the German system, the German money, the German taxpayer money, take it out. Take it out of the budget, this $3 billion, and give it over to the Green Goblin. Damn it, Scholz, damn it, pirate. That is why Annalena is upset. Yeah, remember, it was Annalena a couple of years ago when she was asked about what the German voters think when it comes to money going to Zelensky and Project Ukraine. Annalena said, I couldn't care, man. She's like, the German voter, German citizens, what do I care? She said, we're going to give money to Zelensky. We're going to give money to Ukraine. We don't care what Germans think. Politico has an article with the title, Germany's Baerbock hammers own government for faltering on Ukraine aid. Germany as a whole isn't currently seen as a driving force for peace policy in Europe. And honestly, that pains me, Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock told Politico. That's right, give $3 billion to Zelensky so that you can try to keep the war going for, another couple of weeks? And this is all about peace, according to Annalena. You got to give $3 billion, take $3 billion from the German system, from the German budget, away from the people of Germany, give it to Zelensky, so that Ukraine can hang on for another 2-3 weeks, even though everyone knows that it's lost this war and it's going to lose. And for Annalena Baerbock, this is the definition of peace. The 360 720i definition of peace, according to Annalena. Fico is going to meet the Green Goblin in a couple of days. These are the reports that we are getting. Fico is suggesting that he meet with Zelensky so they can discuss the gas transit issue in Slovakia, on the border between Slovakia and Ukraine. Actually, Fico proposed this a week ago. Actually, on Monday. On Sunday or Monday, Fico said, look, let's stop going back and forth on social media. Let's sit down and talk and see if we can come to a solution, because we got to get this gas to Slovakia. And so on Sunday or Monday, Fico suggested having a meeting with Zelensky, and Zelensky replied on social media. He said that Fico should come to Kiev for a beer. He posted on X, okay, come to Kiev on Friday. Not for a beer. He said, come to Kiev on Friday. Does Zelensky drink beer? I don't know if he drinks beer, but But one of the parliament members in Slovakia, actually the deputy speaker, Tibor Gaspor, said that Zelensky's snarky reply to Fico being the adult in this dispute, the adult in the room, calling for a meeting between a prime minister and an illegitimate president, that Zelensky's snarky reply to Fico was very disrespectful, was very, very unwelcome. He said that the request that it looks like a request to a friend to come for a beer at a pub. Zelensky and Fico are not pals, the deputy speaker added, so I criticize such forms of official communication with our prime minister. Yeah, come for a beer, okay. Come to Kiev for beer, eh? Podolyak, we invite him for beer. We invite him to come to Kiev. Oh boy, that's Zelensky, the statesman known as the Green Goblin. So that's the news with Fico and Zelensky. Expect the meeting to take place in a couple of days. And let's move on and go to the next story. I'm trying to keep my concentration, my train of thought. Now it's time to feed the pigeons. Yeah, everyone's getting food. The cats, the pigeons. Cyprus. We love animals in Cyprus. What else? Let's do one more story. Two more stories before we get to our clown world. An update on the Gaza ceasefire. The ceasefire was signed. It was signed. Last minute, there were some issues. Netanyahu was blaming Hamas. Hamas said this has nothing to do with us. There were some amendments that were being worked out. The mediators stepped in. Anyway, they figured out a solution, and the ceasefire was signed. So that's done. The ceasefire has been signed. How long it is going to hold, we will see. We will see. Some people say it's going to hold for a couple of days. Other people say for a couple of weeks. Other people say it will hold because Trump is going to make it hold. We don't know. We'll take everything one day, one step at a time. The ceasefire comes into effect on January the 19th. And I don't believe the actual document has been published, even though we do have a lot of information as to what was agreed on. But I think we are still waiting for the document to be published so that we can get a look at what exactly it says. But the Times of Israel is not happy. They are not happy with this agreement. I guess what they've seen of this agreement. They ran an article with the title, "For the First Time, Israel Just Lost a War." And in this article, the Times of Israel argues that Hamas pretty much got what it wanted, and Israel did not get much of anything. This is what the Times of Israel is arguing in this article. This article is being shared a lot over Telegram and X. So let's talk about Romania, and then we'll get to our clown world. So it looks like the Romanian government, before we have the rerun of the presidential elections, it looks like they are going to put some changes in place when it comes to social media. Romanian government announces massive fines of up to 10,000 euros for anyone who urges people to vote or not to vote for a presidential candidate during the elections. Apps like X will be fined 5% of their revenue if the state finds them guilty of favoring a candidate. This only applies to social media posts and X if they support candidates that are not approved by the EU and the globalists. In other words, if there are any social media posts, promotion, anything of the such that is in favor of Georgescu, then you're going to have fines. You're going to have fines. But if there are posts and promotions of the EU approved friendly candidates, then of course the fines are not going to hold. They're not going to be imposed. So if the Zookbot, if MAGA Zook decides to boost posts promoting the chosen EU candidate, then Facebook's going to be just fine. But if X decides to run posts or an interview or an X Spaces, if Elon Musk has an X Spaces like the one he held with Alice Weidel, and he has an X Spaces with Georgescu, then X is going to be fined. That's how it's going to work. But it's Russian. It's Russian interference, Russian meddling, right? They're the ones that are meddling in an election. So we'll do a clown world, and we will end this video. If this happens in Romania, if we get a rerun and Georgescu is not allowed to run, or if they start putting rules like this in place, this is going to be used throughout the entirety of the European Union. We just might as well have an EU that when a member state has elections, the EU is just going to pick their chosen candidates. They're just going to pick 3 people, and they're going to say, okay, here you go. Here you go, citizens of Greece or citizens of Slovakia or whatever, of Hungary. These are the 3 candidates that we're choosing for you, and you can pick which one you want. But they've all been pre-approved by the EU. That's where we're heading towards if what is about to happen in Romania actually happens, if Călin Georgescu is not allowed to run, and he will most likely win. Dark times coming in the European Union. The future of Europe rests with Romania. That's the way it looks. Anyway, let's do a clown world, and we can wrap this video up. Latvia demands to be at the Trump-Putin talks. That's right. Latvia is saying we want to be present when Trump and Putin speak. This is from Lord Bibo. Break-in. The talks between Putin and Trump just got delayed. A true hegemon intervened. No talks without Latvia. And the article from BB News is the leadership of Latvia wanted to be involved in the negotiations between Putin and Trump. Yeah, why not? Putin, Trump, and Latvia. They should be present if there is a summit. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think I will leave everybody. Since this video had a theme of the Biden administration as they exit, saying their last goodbyes, since that's the theme of this video, I will leave everybody with Kamala Harris speaking to her staff. I believe she is speaking to her staff, talking about how great her staff is, but more importantly, how great she is and she was. And this is Kamala Harris speaking to her people for one last time as Vice President of the United States. What is going to happen to Kamala Harris? What will be of Kamala? A talk show on MSNBC, perhaps? Maybe. I don't see her. I don't see her at a think tank. I just don't see her getting a position at a think tank. Think tank with Kamala Harris. I don't see that happening. Anyway, that's the video, everybody. TheDuran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and X. Go to the Duran shop. Pick up some merch like what I'm wearing in this video update. The link is in the description box down below. Take care.
I am fully aware that I am the public face of a lot of our work, and so I have the benefit of running into people all over our country who thank me. And I will tell you, I am fully aware that when they are thanking me, they are thanking our team for the extraordinary commitment that you each have and as a team have to lifting up the American people, lifting up their condition, lifting up their hopes and dreams, and understanding through it all the nobility of public service.